And you are watching Love Stories. And today, I just wanted to finish up with my little processing of the 10 words, the 10 commandments, otherwise known as the Decalogue. I like what Merriam-Webster says, the definition of the 10 commandments. The ethical commandments of God given according to biblical accounts to Moses by voice and by writing on stone tablets. Yeah. And in the Britannica, they say that they date the Decalogue between the 16th and 13th centuries BCE because it's connected with Moses and the Sinai covenant between Yahweh and Israel. And the entire Decalogue can be found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 2 to 17, and also in Deuteronomy, almost exactly the same, Deuteronomy 5, verses 6 to 21. So last time we left off in, I guess I will say verse 4, where God is speaking to, again, he is speaking as in an audible voice to not just Moses and Aaron, but to the entire nation of Israel gathered at the foot of Mount Sinai, where God is speaking amidst smoke billowing up and thunder and lightning and trumpets sounding. He is speaking these 10 words directly to the nation of Israel. And picking up in verse 4, you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. Now, I don't know if it's that you don't make any kind of image whatsoever, or if you don't make an image to worship. I have to say, I really don't know. My tendency is to think that it is the latter, that you don't make an image for the purpose of worshiping it. I mean, this is directly what happened with the Israelites as they waited on Moses 40 days and 40 nights as he was in the presence of God at the, near the top of Mount Sinai, receiving all the law and the 10 commandments written on stone tablets by the finger of God. They couldn't wait. They couldn't wait for what they couldn't see and touch and hear anymore. And so they had Aaron make exactly the very thing that God tells them not to do. They make an image for the purpose of worshiping it in the place of God. But actually, it's supposed to be a representation of some kind of God who delivered them out of Egypt. But of course, this all breaks down. It becomes really an orgy, just a free-for-all, just complete defilement. And of course, God knows. It's not like God turned his back and he can't see what's going on. He sees, he knows. He's all-seeing, all-powerful. He knows. So he tells Moses, there's the sound of, partying basically going on in the camp. And this is when Moses breaks the stone tablets written by the finger of God. He breaks them. And interestingly enough, God doesn't punish him for that. God doesn't say anything about that. There is no commentary from God about Moses breaking those first stone tablets in his anger, in his complete frustration and everything else toward the Israelites for doing the very thing that God told them not to do because they couldn't wait. They couldn't wait. They didn't believe, trust, And we are not unlike those people. I mean, and it's important for us to understand that. It's important for us to acknowledge that. that many times we don't wait. I know I am very guilty of that. We don't wait. We don't trust. You know, we trust as long as we can see it. We trust, you know, as which is really no faith at all, because faith, you know, in something you can see is really not faith, as Hebrews 11 tells us. So we have trouble sustaining faith when we don't hear, see, feel his presence, all those kind of things. Our minds, our hearts go trailing off, wandering off into whole other areas, and can end up in a place of defilement, as the Israelites did. It says further, you shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Now he equates, I feel like he equates hating him with worshiping false gods, worshiping idols, worshiping things that you made with your hands, even in his image or in his honor, whatever you want to say. You know, that this isn't a demonstration of love. This is a demonstration of you hating him, okay? If you're making it to worship him, okay? I think that's the purpose. You know, if the purpose of the idol is for worship, then you're not expressing love to him. You know, he is saying those who hate me, you know, that he punishes the children for the sin, that he's a jealous God, and he punishes the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Okay, so I just want to talk about that for a minute. Hating him can be many other things. I mean, just our choice to sin, our choice to put other things before God, to ignore God, to say God doesn't exist, all kinds of things that we do when we know there is a God. All the things that we do that bear witness against us that we don't love him. And that there's a cost. So that even when we come to him, there are still consequences for what we've done. And I think that we don't think about that very much. Because right after that sentence, you know, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Well, we might start out hating him or being in that category for one reason or another, and then we come to faith, right? And we're washed and we're cleansed by the blood of the Lamb. That's a real thing. And that love, right? As we love him and we keep his commandments, okay, because we love him, because if, like Jesus said, if we love him, we'll keep his commandments, we'll obey him, okay, then there's that love. But what happens to the third and fourth generation and all that stuff? Well, that stuff is real. That stuff is there. I see that accumulation in my life. I see that accumulation in the lives of some of my friends. His love is greater. He redeems. He works in it anyway, you know, but I see the accumulation of the sins of the father and the mother to the third and fourth generation. I think in my case, I think of the issue of self-worth. You know, people say self-esteem, but I'll just say, you know, the value of myself as a human being. Well, I came from a mother who did not value herself as a human being, fought very hard to learn how to value herself as a human being, and really came to it in a very unhealthy way. So she collected things of beauty. She did not forgive people who hurt her. She was very into rewarding herself, you know, in kind of unhealthy ways, all right? And yet, my mom had a lot of really wonderful qualities. She did. You know, she overcame so many things. Tremendous poverty she came out of, okay? kind of poverty where she and her mother were evicted again and again, okay, where she lived for one part of her life in Chicago and knew what the rats looked like in winter, okay. Her mother didn't eat so she could eat, okay. She came out of extreme poverty, okay. Her mother was an immigrant. Her mother and father were immigrants from Russia. They came at 15 to the U.S. They were married and everything. And her father was a gambler. He was a gambler and a womanizer. He was a wonderful musician, really wonderful trumpet player. But he was a gambler and a womanizer, and he left his wife and child, and actually all three of them. There were three of them. And he did things that carry on. You know, the music carries on, but gambling was an issue. You know, faithfulness was an issue. You know, there were a lot of wounds. I think of them as wounds. I think more than the sins of the father. You know, but my mom wasn't cared. You know, she was incredibly neglected by her father, and even more so neglected by her mother, who didn't even know how to be a mom to her, okay, except to give her the food. That was her form of love. That was her language of love. So my mom knew nothing about what her value was. She was told by her rich aunts, who did not help, except for one. One did. But, you know, completely devalued her. So my mom spent a lot of her life trying to find her value. And I'm her daughter. I think I've spent a lot of my life trying to find my value. Thankfully, I found the Lord at 27, you know. But even my children, even our daughters, have all struggled with the issue of their value. You know, do they matter? Do their lives matter? You know? So when I talk about the sins of the fathers or the parents, I think of it as the cycles of sin that are passed down. And what must my mom's mom have felt about herself being treated in such a way by her husband? I mean, my mom was 16 when her mom died. Just died, you know? So there are many cycles like this. Alcoholism is another one. I mean, you know, many, many cycles we could talk about. But so those families that turn away from God, that hate God, so to speak, there are consequences to this because He's the maker. He's the creator. He has a way of blessing for us to walk in. And we disregard that. There are consequences. There just are. Showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. I am so grateful for God's work in our lives, in my husband's life and in my life, and that our children are close to us. Our 3 daughters are very close to us. In my family, my oldest sister and my brother ran away. There were 3 of us in my family, and my oldest sister and brother ran away, you know. There was brokenness in my husband's family as well because of alcoholism and neglect. But I'm thankful that in my family with our daughters, you know, that we have remained close, that we continue to be close. I'm not saying that we did a perfect job because we didn't. We really didn't. We made a lot of mistakes. But God was in the mix. God was in the mix, and He made the difference, you know. And that passage, showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. There's a whole lot more I could say about this, but we'll just go on. So going on, in verse 7, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses His name. Now, there's a whole range of things I could say about this too, because in the Messianic movement, there's all this opinion about what his name is. Okay, Jesus is the American, the English version of his actual Hebrew name, Yeshua. But that's not even enough there. Yeshua is not even enough. Then it goes into, all these more correct versions of his name. The Jehovah's Witnesses obviously think Jehovah is the name, although in their literature, the Jehovah's Witnesses go on to say that that's not really the correct name of God. It's Yahweh, which gets the closest to the name of God, because the name of God in English is consonants. There are no vowels. So there's no pronouncing the name of God. Okay, there's no pronunciation for the name of God. So what happens is, there are vowels that are put there so that it can be pronounced, either Yahweh or Jehovah. And it's like, okay, his name is unpronounceable. There must be a reason for that. Just saying, there must be a reason for that. And I think the reason is reverence. I think the reason is that we don't transgress by actually saying his name. So we have God, which is a title, not really a name. Okay, and we have Jesus or Yeshua or whatever version, But I don't even think we get near the name, the actual name, because I think it's like, Revelation talks about it being written on his name in another way, So I think we are given the name Jesus, who is the Christ. Okay, so that we won't transgress. But even then, knowing or believing that this is the name and treating it badly, or even the title of God and treating it badly, I don't think that that's of no consequence to God, or that doesn't matter, because we're treating it as if it is the name. I don't think we have the name, because I don't think we can handle the name. We're given this name, okay? We're given Yahweh, Jehovah, we're given Jesus, we're given I am who I am what I am, all these pictures of God. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. And people go around all the time casually saying, using God as an exclamation, using Jesus' name as a cuss word, using God's name in a curse, how much more if we actually had the intrinsic name. I don't think we have that name. We are given these names, titles, etc., whatever you want to call them. This is how we address him, and he hears us. I really believe he hears us. But even these, we abuse. I mean, it's just so casual. It's so random in our society. People just say it all the time. OMG. Shorthand for, and it's like, it doesn't mean anything. And so then we demean it. Again, we don't reverence it, and I don't want to get like pharisaical about this or legalistic, but I want to just say, he's holy. It comes back to this whole thing of, okay, he's holy. The people had to consecrate themselves for 2 days. They had to abstain from sexual relations. There were trumpets, there were, lightning and thunder and smoke billowing out of the mountain. And they were so scared they didn't want to approach, the mountain any further after hearing him give these 10 commandments in his voice. And that just escapes us. It's abstract. It's words on a page. We don't get it. And we need to get it. We who are believers, who are filled with his Spirit, we need to get this. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Now, I have struggled with this my entire walk. And I spoke a little bit about it before in terms of rest. I actually believe what the scripture says here, therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. I think that there is something to the seventh day, evening to evening, that is set apart from all the other days. I think that there is something in that day that separates it from all the rest of the days. And I mean that literally. Now, you can take a rest day, a Sabbath, quote unquote, any day of the week, and that's a good thing, okay? That's an honoring thing. But I think there's something to be said when God says, therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy, that being, in other words, that being the seventh day. I think that the business of not doing work and, it means so many different things to so many people. In Israel, I've been to Israel 6 times, and one of the things, in the first 1 or 2 times we were, on a tour with our associate pastor at the time, Lynn Corey, and one of the things that just I thought was crazy, was that people don't use the, people should not work to pull the toilet paper off the toilet roll. So we're talking about, pieces of toilet paper being torn off before sunset on Friday night as a way of keeping the Sabbath. Now, I can't be the judge of that, okay? Some people think it's crazy that believers don't drink alcohol, or refrain entirely from alcohol, even like wine in the communion. They think that's nuts, but that's because there are people who are alcoholics and they don't want to go back to, that could trigger them. Although the whole argument about communion could be that it's something that's a completely blessed meal, and therefore you trust God. You don't have to worry about it that way. But for some people, completely understandable, they don't feel they can participate in wine as part of the communion, okay? That's a big deal. Other people, they feel like, wine is what Jesus drank. He turned the water into wine, for goodness sake. Why can't we get that through our heads? It was fermented drink. I believe it was fermented drink. I know that even parts of, different denominations don't believe that it was actually fermented, and they make this argument that it wasn't actually fermented. I mean, we can, strain at a gnat, I mean, we can do this whole number of what it means to work. And I think that has to be a relational thing defined between you and God. That you have to know what's good, because Jesus healed on the Sabbath, okay? That wasn't nothing, that was not resting exactly. It's lawful to do what is good. Okay, so it's lawful to do what is good. But what does that pertain to? How far does that go? And I would say that that's a matter of, your relationship with the Lord. What does it mean to rest? I'm 30 plus years into my journey with the Lord, and I'm still working out what it means to rest from my work, to stop what I'm doing, and yet it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath. The tension between those two things as I understand them. And how will God help me understand them as He sees them? So there is that. And I'm not going to get to all the rest of these right now, but I want to say that this is not a small thing. This is not, well, that's all gone now, and now we just, people say, I heard early on in my walk, if the Jewish people, if we could have just kept the basic law, love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, in essence, and love your neighbor as yourself, then we wouldn't have needed, the rest of the laws, because all the rest of the laws are tied up in that, as Jesus says, in, all the law and the prophets are in love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's all tied up in that. But because we're not relational, because we struggle so much, because in fact the conclusion of Him giving the law orally to the nation of Israel is summed up in 14, or no, it's actually verse 18. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us, or we will die." Yeah. May God have mercy on us, and may we have the courage by the indwelling Spirit of God in us to draw near, to continue to draw near, that all the temporal things of this life would burn up in us, around us, and that the purity, the holiness of God would be revealed in us and through us, that we would choose Him above all other loves, above all other gods, above all things. We would choose Him and continue to choose Him again and again and again. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. This is Sally Klein O'Connor, and you've been watching Love Stories. Till next time, shalom.